Okay. I'm going to tell Morgan. Morning, folks. Hey, Morgan.
Hey there. Okay, cool. Let me pull up the chat here. Okay, great. Is everybody already on here?
So far, we've got, I think, 5 attendees who have logged in.
Okay,
Folks
great.
start piling in pretty quickly here
Okay.
the next 5 minutes or so.
Okay, so to share my screen, I just click the green button and then I go to this, I think, and then here. Right? Can you see that?
Yep. And then, yeah, perfect.
Okay, awesome. And then if I want to see Q&A, the chat, okay, interesting. I don't know what this is doing, but.
So down on that area where your share screen button was,
Yeah.
and you can kind of shrink that so it doesn't cover your notes or your.
Okay, let me go back to, where's my Zoom window? I wonder if I have to pull, oh, so, sorry, it minimized everything. So I have to figure out how to, oh, if I stop sharing. I'm just curious how I'm going to see the Q&A that comes up from sharing.
Oh.
Or see the chat. Let me move this over.
So when you click that little chat bubble on the bottom there, does it open a little window? It should have a pop-up window.
Yes, I see the pop-up window now.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna just type in a quick survey link for everybody since I didn't get that out as soon as I'd like to have. Okay.
Slide those better chairs in. Sorry.
Cool. Okie dokie. I'll go to results. Okie doke. And you can see my screen right now too.
We can, yeah.
Okay.
It's large and it has it's got the browser at the top, but it's a good size, at least for my end.
Yeah. I'm going to keep the browser at the top for the time being just because I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my place and waste everybody's time.
Yep.
Okay. And then I've got the webinar chat. Did you guys see that I posted the type 4 survey up there too? Can you see that?
Yep, I see that in the chat. So folks that are on, welcome. We'll get started right at 11 here in about 3 minutes, but Morgan, our presenter for today, has requested that everybody, as soon as you're able, do the click this link and complete the survey that it takes you to, and that'll get things going.
Yes, thank you. And for those of you who are on right now, I just put a message in the chat box, but please feel free to chat questions throughout my presentation, and I will try to get to those as I can. Sometimes I'll go through and I'll notice them a little bit later, so apologies. I'll try and keep on that as well. And I'm curious too, where is everybody tuning in from? From just Montana or across the state, or?
Largely from Montana. I think we have a few participants from Illinois. And I actually don't have the master list open. I think 90% of our folks are from Montana. We have a good crew out in Sydney with the Richland County AmeriCorps program.
Great.
Oh yeah, there we go. In the chat. Folks want to say where they're...
Yeah, I'm curious where people are tuning in from.
So this is already recording.
Let's see.
Because it says up there. And I don't know if that's on her screen or ours.
Yes. So it is recording. I turned on a thing to like record automatically.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have to remember.
Okay.
And then Morgan, this is Callie Foster.
Hi, Callie. Hi.
She's our new program specialist. And
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Great. Are you guys in the DHC right now?
We are.
Very cool. Okay. I'm in Gilkey.
Nice. It's over by it's on Arthur. It's the new kind of business building in front of the other business building. So sort of north and west of here. All right, folks. I think my clock says it's 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and we are ready to get started with today's Community Building Institute. We are very lucky to have Morgan Slemberger join us today, and Morgan's day job is with the Blackstone Launchpad, and she probably will tell you more about that. But she's also been a CBI trainer for us for a good handful of years now. So welcome, Morgan. We're at stop 4 on the kind of wheel of the community building life cycle. And this one is really kind of in the implementation phase. You've done kind of community needs assessment, you've built advisory groups, you've kind of thought through, and this is kind of, we're at the phase of launching a campaign or beginning an initiative. So I'll let Morgan take it away. Thanks so much.
Okay, cool. Great to have everybody here. I'm toggling between my presentation and then the survey results. So we only have 2 responses, but maybe I'll come back to those and I'll kind of do a meeting preview quickly. My hope today is that you can learn a little bit about me and my background. I want to also talk about building meaningful content. So what is it to your stakeholders? What is meaningful content and how do you create that within your social media channels? I want to do a quick social media overview for some of the channels that I think are most useful probably for your work and what I've found to be most useful for my work. And then I'm going to take you through Facebook and Instagram paid advertising. Now, I focus on that, and generally when I've done this training in the past, we've run out of time toward the end, so keep that in mind. I'll try and hustle through. If you have a couple extra minutes, that would be great. But I focus on Facebook and Instagram because in spite of younger demographics starting to claim that they don't use Facebook, they're not on Facebook, the statistics would actually tell you otherwise. So the younger demographics are still checking it, maybe not as frequently as they are with Snap, but they're still using it. So really you'll still get the most amount of internet users on Facebook and Instagram, so it'll end up being a bigger bang for your buck. And by the way, so I'm seeing in the chat, some people aren't aware of the survey. If you scroll all the way to the top of the chats box, you'll see it, and then I'll repost it in here for you too. Feel free to take that. So the hope with that survey is just to kind of give us an idea of your own usage, but also it kind of shows you what your own usage is, but also tells us a little bit more about how fickle we all are with social media in general. Are there any questions before I get started? You can chat them my way if you want to. I'll give you just a second. Otherwise, I'll hit the ground running here. Okie dokie. So I'll come back to the survey. We'll just, maybe after I introduce myself a little bit. So this is kind of where my story has begun. So if you have volume on your computer and you can listen in, well, I guess I would hope you have volume on your computer right now. Anyway, I'm going to play this little video for you. It's just a minute long. Okay, so I am originally from Oregon. I call myself a Montagonian, and I love the social media campaign more than anything else. The Seven Wonders of Oregon, if you check it out, it was a really well done campaign for the state of Oregon, for their tourism board, by a really prestigious firm called Wieden and Kennedy, and actually our old University of Montana marketing director used to do some collaborative work with Wieden and Kennedy. They're really, really well known. But anyway, it's a really cool campaign, and I always like showing that because I think it's an example of both meaningful content, but also they spent a lot of time curating that footage, but that's footage that anybody could do, in my personal opinion, to tell a good story. So I started out in Oregon, camping, hiking, all of that good stuff. So I'm a pusher. I pushed myself to leave Oregon, and I started to attend University of Montana. And while at UM, I got 2 degrees, and they're both creative degrees. So I'm a liberal arts person, and I have a film degree as well as an English degree, and then I'm slowly eking my way through an MBA, very part-time because I have children. And for any of you who have children, you know that it really sucks to go to school when you have kids. So then I also, in being a pusher, constantly try and get myself out of my comfort zone, and I think sometimes that reflects in some of the social media channels that I manage. I like to kind of go on the edges and the fringes of things, which I think sometimes people aren't expecting, and so it kind of sticks out in their memory. And so part of what I don't love to do is going outside of my comfort zone, but I force myself to do that. So in addition, I've pushed myself to start organizations. So that picture is from a group I used to run called Women for the Web that encouraged women to get involved in web development. I've owned several of my own businesses, and then I'm the founder of Last Best Conference. If any of you have heard of Last Best Conference, that's one of my favorite events that I get to participate in. And so the other thing that I do, I'm able to kind of push myself and my colleagues, and for the most part, they say thank you. However, that has expired in several positions in the past. So sometimes I push a little hard and people aren't ready for that. And so then I know it's kind of either A, my time to transition to something new or a new organization, or B, I need to reevaluate a little bit and see what I've got on my plate. So now we're going to kind of move into building meaningful content. And just before I do, I want to check in on those survey results quickly. And really sorry to those of you who did not have sound on the video. Did everybody not have sound on the video, or just a few of you? I'm curious. Anybody? Everybody? I did not. Oh, good God. Well, I'm so sorry. Oh gosh. Okay, that's part of the beauty of that video. So please, feel free to look that up and review it, because the sound is really great. I'm so sorry that didn't come through. Maybe it's just because I'm sharing my screen instead of sharing the video. I'm not sure. Okay, really quick, let's move into the responses of your survey. And I'm curious if I open this link up, it's going to take me back over here, take me to the actual results. Okay, so we can see here, just as I said earlier, the biggest bang for your buck is going to be Facebook. So we have 42.9% of people use Facebook most on this call. However, there's still a good representation of the other channels. But even if you marked Instagram more, Snapchat more, Twitter more, Facebook's still a great place to start with your advertising. 71.4% of people use Facebook every day, which is great, every hour and every week. So it's interesting. What device do you use the most? And most people clicked smartphone. So that's really interesting too. As we're shaping our content, you will see things that are directed more toward your smartphone or tablet. So that's something important to keep in mind. Which types of content do you share most? Pictures. So this is really great too, and I'll go through this a little bit as well. Pictures actually generally in most social media channels, the algorithms favor them more. So using pictures in the content that you're sharing is really great, even if it's just a post and not a paid advertisement. Articles, okay, videos, and status updates. So that's great. Fewer people are doing news pieces and quizzes and that thing. Okay. What do you mainly use social media for? Keeping in touch with friends, okay? Staying up to date with news and events, and then discovering new things. So really interesting, but keeping in touch with friends. So you want to think about that as well. So most people are not visiting social media to see what you're publishing. So how do you capture their attention in a meaningful way without interrupting their experience? So that's something that you want to leave a positive taste in their mouth, if you will. Which social media networks have you used for work or for business beyond a personal profile, if any? 83% of you have used Facebook. That's great. 66% of you have used Instagram, a little bit of LinkedIn, a little bit of Tumblr, and a little bit of Twitter. Great. And I'm just curious, if you could, I'm going to scroll down here. Can you comment in the chat box if you guys have done paid advertising? I'm curious a little bit there about what kinds of advertising you've done. Okay, in addition, in the last week, I saw 2 to 6 advertisements that were memorable in a good way. 57% of you have marked very untrue. So I want you to take note of that. So what I mentioned earlier is that we're all fickle users of advertising or of social media. So your priority when you're on social media is to connect with your friends, and that would be true of most users. When you see that 57% of you believe that you had no great memories of advertising in your feed, that's significant. So you want to change that. You want to change that mentality when you're creating your own content. You want to, okay, so then it says in the last week, I saw 2 to 6 advertisements that were memorable in the bad way, about the same percentage. So you're remembering, bad experiences as opposed to positive experiences. So that's something to pay attention to as well. Okay, yes to paid, no to paid, Hootsuite but not paid. Okay, great. And Mandy, you've done some paid advertising, so maybe we'll cover some things that you're not aware of. I'll go through that a little bit as well. Okay, in the last week when I saw an advertisement that did not appeal to my likes or interests, I felt very annoyed, or a little bit indifferent. And I didn't give any positive options on this, but for the most part, people are not loving when an advertisement does not appeal to them and comes into their newsfeed. So we'll cover some ways on how to avoid some of that through really great targeting. And then in the last week, I shared 2 to 6 articles, posts, pictures, videos on social media from various organizations, not my family or friends. So most of you marked very untrue, or very untrue, 50% of you-ish, and then some of you marked true, some of you marked very true. So it's looking like a, let's call it a 70-30 spread, or a little bit more than that, a 65, what is that, 35 spread. So anyway, that's something to keep in mind as well. The majority of you lots of you are not sharing meaningful articles from organizations. Some of you are. So those of you who are, think about the types of things that you're sharing. Is it meaningful content? What is it? What about it is actually having you share the content? And feel free, you can answer on here. If your colleagues may benefit from some of your comments as well. But these are insights that when you transition from being just a user and a consumer of social media to being a true like marketer, advertiser on social media, you change your mindset a little bit about what is the content, what is the value that you're providing, what's the relationship that you're building with your audience. And then finally, in the social media workshop, okay, how to engage more. I won't have time to read through all of these right now, but I'll look through them and I'll try to email people if I don't cover certain things. Okay, so we're gonna head back over here. I hope that was a little bit insightful just to start considering how your experience is going to change as a marketer versus a consumer. Okay, so we're gonna start with how to target your best audience so your message is well received. And forgive me, I'm toggling over to where my notes are on my iPad as we're going through this. So to consider your target audience, you wanna target a portion of these people. So when you think about, can somebody give me an example of their site in the chat, like what your project is? If somebody wants to type something. Spectrum Discovery Area, great. Okay, so if you were to think about some of your audience, your stakeholders, who would you identify as some of your, who would you identify as a really broad audience of yours, some of your stakeholders? Families, great. So part of what you can dive into there is to consider, okay, who of the families would we be targeting? So small children are probably not going to have social media accounts. So then we would want to transition to parents. Okay, so of these parents, can you hear me if I do this? Is that better? I'm sorry if the sound is bad. It really might be my microphone. Is this better? I did test it and it showed green bars, which I thought was good. Okay. I'll keep on doing this. So part of what I'd say then, so from families, we look at narrowing that target to something like, okay, so it's static. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if it's my microphone. Okay. So everybody else is seeming to have good sound, but there's a little bit of bad. I'm really sorry. Maybe if you refresh your Zoom session, I don't know if that might help. Okay, so going from families, we think about parents, and then you can even get to narrow in on the different kinds of parents. You could consider if you have a specific campaign for those who might have financial need, what do those families look like and where are they checking their social media? If you had families who primarily, often this is still very true, which is, I think times are changing, but women still are the family buying power, so they might be looking for more things for families as well. So you can also start to create campaigns specifically targeting women. You could also, women with children, you could also start to consider targeting dads, and what are dads doing? Like, are they taking over for moms, or are you running a campaign that's specifically targeted to dads, like, is mom out of town? Sounds sexist, but unfortunately some of those statistics in business schools still ring very true. But you could also do some creative campaigns for scientific dads or something like that. So we'll get into a little bit more of this, and you guys know your audiences better than I, so take all of my comments with a grain of salt, but I'll give you some frameworks that should help you better narrow your audiences. So let me click in here. Okay, so who, what, where, when, why, how. You remember this, I'm sure, from your early days in elementary school. So a lot of what I like to ask is, how can we profile the people we want to reach? So who are they? What do they do? Where are they? When are they there? And why do they care? And then how are they going through the world? So if we were targeting grandparents for Spectrum, for example, their experience may be different on social media than a millennial 30-year-old parent. So you want to take those things into consideration. You also want to see, like, is this person just a general, like, are they into science, or are they just a general parent who's looking for something that they want to take their kids to? Where are they? So are they at work when they're checking social media? Where are they throughout the day that they would be checking? And then what times of day are they checking? And then why are they there? Why do they care? Why should they care about the content that you're creating? And then what is their general world experience? So I mentioned too, like financial, like a lot of you are probably working with poverty folks. So how does that poverty affect their time on the computer? How does that affect their use and consumption of social media? Could really change how they're looking at things. So here are the basics of this. So target market breakdown. Who? Be nosy. What is their age range? So we narrowed families down to parents. Maybe you have two different markets of parents and grandparents, or those people who are taking their children to Spectrum Discovery Center. What are the age ranges of these people? Is it 24 to 38? What's the age range of those people? What are the genders? You do two separate campaigns for each gender, or for a separate campaign for grandparents versus parents. And then what does their general life look like? So if you were to profile them, do they have kids? Yes, they would. Do they have other activities that are related to Spectrum that they would be doing, that you think they would be doing? Because you can indicate all of these behaviors in some of our social media advertising. Where or when are they? So where are they most often, and when are they there? Are they at work from 9 to 5? Are they working night jobs? And are those jobs static where they're at a computer, or are they working differently? Are they using their hands, and so therefore they're not at a computer most of the time? So profiling, like, what does their normal day look like? And then what are their activities, interests, and communities that they're involved in? So what are they doing throughout their day? What are the other communities that they might be a part of? Those will also help some of that. So maybe some of the Spectrum families are doing other activities, like maybe they're a part of the Children's Museum, or maybe they're a part of the Lab preschool. You might already have some of this information in some of the communities that you work with. And then what will make them care about your message, and how can you best deliver it to them? So is Facebook the right place for you to deliver your message to parents and grandparents? I would say probably, yeah. LinkedIn, maybe not, more of a professional audience there. So there are lots of things to consider as you're choosing the right carrier for this message. And then also keep in mind that what will make them care about your message. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. Okay, so here are some of my basics that I think are really, really meaningful for people, like, to build their own message. You don't have to be a graphic designer to have really cool content. You mainly need to focus on your message. So I tell people the hook. How do you initiate interest from your audience? This is a huge part of it. So this is a campaign we did a while ago called 99 Problems, and our target demographic were college students. So 99 problems, but a pitch ain't one. And it was a pitch contest for students. And we got really great social media results from it. So even if I had a much more rudimentary design here, and the hook is still catchy enough that it would work really well. And this was kind of a throwback style. So this is really how you get your audience interested. The hook is kind of like a beginning of a novel. Again, back to basics. So this sets the tone for your campaign. So it doesn't matter if you're a graphic designer or not. You just want to phrase something that's really synonymous with your audience that they're going to relate to. So you take careful consideration when you're titling that campaign, because this is what really will initiate your relationship with the audience through this ad. So this is Kid President. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Kid President, but they have an amazing social media channel and presence, and it's all about positive optimism and how you can make the world a better place every day just through living a happy life. So this is an example where the hook is really like resonates with a lot of people, and it's simply a picture, and they could have just, I think they used a font, but you could even handwrite something like this on top of the picture in permanent pens and then use your smartphone to take a photo. So this is really, the hook is really this part where you can delight people, use timelessness, and use your clever wit, because all of the Vistas that I've worked with, or all of the AmeriCorps people that I've worked with, are really clever people. So you can let that cleverness shine here. It's also your chance to land the fish. So your hook is really where you're going to engage people. Making something look good is great, but if your language is boring and doesn't really resonate with people, then it doesn't matter. You could have something really pretty and nobody's going to click on that. So you want to tailor your message to your audience. Look at the who and why, and that's really the #1 secret I can give to you. A logo, tagline, or using captions, whatever it may be that gives that hook is probably one of the best things. So this is an old campaign that I ran for Curry Health Center around the time that UM went tobacco free. Part of what the research shows is that people also like to see themselves. So in social media, the more that you can use people, like members of your audience, the more likely friends and the people are to share that post and then like that post. Also, we used quotes from real students on campus to show their support. So those quotes, I think, were also really powerful for this general audience. And the audience that we targeted with this was mainly the stakeholders who were buying into the tobacco-free UM movement. So really, again, the hook is really your opportunity to lure your audience in. Okay, any questions on the hook before I keep going? Or any questions in general? Should pause just to let you guys ask anything. Okay, I'll keep checking the chat, so feel free to use it and ask away. Okay, so the look. This is how you can really create something that's visually appealing for your audience. And if you don't have an artistic bone in your body, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you some tricks of the trade that can kind of overcome that. And this is an example of a really cool campaign, Cast Me Mark. It was for I think a model call for Marc Jacobs, and they basically had people send in selfies and then they framed them in Polaroids, and there used to be some like framing in Polaroids, I think, on like some phone applications. I don't know if Instagram used to have it. I don't think they did, but anyway, then they used this across all of their channels to show, like, people were tagging themselves, tagging Cast Me Mark, and they could show all of these different models who were hoping to be a part of this campaign. But as you can see, really clever campaign. People sent things in from all over the place, and not just people models, but dog models. And it littered social media at the time that they did this. So little work for them. There were no fancy designs, but it looks really cool with the Polaroids, and then populating this from their audience is a really neat way to do it as well. So the basics of the look. Sorry, I have to click in here. So once you've landed the fish with your hook, with your cleverness, with your campaign, whatever it may be, now you want to reel it in. So the look, I would say, is secondary to your hook. So your language is more important at the end of the day. So using your look is as simple as using your iPhone to take an artsy photo. And I say that because you could not have an artistic bone in your body, but you could take something like my coffee mug and do an extreme close-up. I don't know, I'm trying to, where's the logo of Contigo? Like, well, mine isn't very pretty because I've dropped it. You could do this weird extreme close-up Contigo, and maybe you have some like handwritten writing on there, and it looks different on your iPhone. You're pressing buttons that like an extreme close-up or something. And then Instagram has beautiful filters that you can use as well. So my basics here are, you don't need to freak out if you're not artistic. You don't have to be an artist to create kick-ass content. You just need to be clever about it. So, and if you have a fine arts degree, I really apologize about that comment because you probably want to strangle me. But really what you need to do is grab your phone, grab a friend if you need it to be a model, or grab somebody from your office, and then either go outside or go near windows. Windows are your friend. Clearly you wouldn't want them like they are behind me, where they're bright behind me because my face is dark. If I were to move, oh no, yeah, if I can move, you can see the lighting's terrible because it's trying to focus outside. So really what you'd want to do is have a window behind your phone, and shining on your subject, whether it's a thing or a person, whatever it may be. Outside, you kind of eliminate a lot of the issues inside. So if you take photos outside, more likely than not, you'll take something really great. And then try and experiment with your photos. So take something really close up, like I was saying earlier. An extreme close up can be really wild and crazy and look great. Or like this example of Michelle Obama, you can hold signs, and that's become more and more popular recently. There doesn't have to be anything that's significant, or any handwriting that's, amazing. It just needs to look authentic and real. And then in addition, you can also do wild and crazy collage style cutouts. So that example, if I scroll back here, of the Jay-Z example, this is a graphic designer who did this, but I could have very easily done a collage with a magazine, and it actually comes off funky and fun and creative and different. So don't fret. You can actually do old school things if you don't have computer programs or Photoshop skills. That would help you. If you do, feel free to use those. You can doctor up a picture, or you can add little extras. But if you don't, you can actually do things old school that millennials especially are going to resonate with, because it's funky, different, and interesting. Next, here are some examples of success without design. I always like to show people that you can be successful with these cool, different, creative ways. So Black Coffee Roasting has one of the most exciting Instagram channels I know. And granted, they have somebody who's killer photographer. If you have awesome photography skills, like take some great photos for your channel. If you don't, that's totally okay too. So Delta Airlines, their hook with this ad kills me every time. I always smile. I love it. It's a really good example of how you can use a creative hook just for brand recognition. So this is a brand recognition ad. The Kind Bars also have it. Oops, sorry. Kind Bars and Game of Thrones. I'm not going to click on those. Well, maybe I'll click on Game of Thrones because it's just funny. They have some amazing Instagram. Sorry, this is my web decoder. Let me move this out of the way. Boop. Okay, so previously, here we go. Their Instagram used to consist primarily of action figures of their characters, which is so weird and hilarious. But they used to not have any extra content. It was strictly the action figures. So this is an example, I would say, of people doing something really off the beaten path that's silly and fun and different. Not that everybody has claymation skills on this call, but you could do something unique and kind of different along these lines, I guess. And they used to have a huge following. I don't know if it says at the top what they're, 5.1 million followers. So that's really significant. And they don't even have that many posts considering how long the season's been going. The other one that I wanted to show you really quick, and they may have changed some of what they've got going. Whole Foods Market, they're a really good example of how they've used Pinterest to really engage their audience. So they have recipes, food trends, and a whole bunch of different boards that their audience can really relate to. Pinterest is interesting. I'll talk about that a little bit more, about the audiences that are engaged here. But just another really cool example of how people are using different mediums to connect with their stakeholders. Okay. So next, delivering your message to your target audience. So this is kind of where we're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty of it. I'm going to do some really quick overviews of the different types of social media. So you want to ensure your campaign or message is going to reach your audience. So you want to connect and build your tribe by creating a meaningful relationship with your audience. So you don't want to overdo the content unless it resonates with your audience. You don't want to fatigue them because you're posting so frequently. Algorithms do filter that a little bit. So, and certain channels like Twitter, for example, you can post more often than not. But you want to engage your audience. You don't want to fatigue them. And then you want to really cultivate the content to connect with them. So you don't want to post things that are meaningless. You don't want to post just for the sake of posting. Sometimes it blows my mind how there are social media schedules that bosses arbitrarily will set up, and it's like post, 5 times a day, 3 times a week. And unless you have content that's really going to connect with your audience, I would advise not to do it, because really you want to create that relationship. And that's what social media is becoming more and more, is this additional experience for people to connect with the brands they love. And you want to be one of those brands they love. Even if we're thinking in terms of projects, I would still consider it a brand and a connection that you're making with your target audience and stakeholders. Okay, so we'll move along here. So to deliver your message, don't sell, connect. So whatever meaningful content your audience will naturally buy into is what you want to be. So you want to be authentic with your audience. So ASPCA is a really great example of another Pinterest example of how they're connecting with their audience, both like they're pulling at the heartstrings of their audience, right? They're showcasing pets who have had tough lives, or who are being adopted, or just they're trying to connect and add value to these people who love animals. So I love this example. And then also you want semi-regular updates, but not enough that it's not meaningful. So I sound like a broken record. Also, what keeps you interested as a user, which we talked about a little bit in that survey. So what are some of the things of the organizations that you follow? And Patagonia is often one that comes up in social media. People follow Patagonia because of the brand that they've created and their passion for the environment and sustainability, but they also post meaningful content, things that they're engaged in, whether it's politically or about their products being used that are helping some of their consumers. So they're really building a relationship with people. So that's the other thing. Consider some of the channels that you're following, and when you are pleasantly surprised by an update that somebody gives, check in with yourself and figure out, like, why did I like that so much? That's important as you continue to build. Okay. So now, Facebook keys to content success. And this comes from a slew of experience and then also articles and social media experts. Get funky, kind of be creative and off the beaten path, being versatile, changing it up, mixing it up, not getting stale, and being able to evolve. So you don't want to necessarily put something into place that's a repetitive thing that you do, like every Monday or Throwback Thursday. You want to make sure that that's resonating with your audience. And doing different things is really, it's a fun place to do that. You can kind of be fun with it. With your team, you can I call them vibe standards. You can share this across like a team of people, but you want to have some sort of like relationship persona, I guess. Like you want to have your channel have a persona. And so I call it a vibe standard with your team. So everybody's linked into that vibe persona, that voice that you're providing to your customers. And then again, photos. Facebook ranks every post with a photo higher than anything else. So continue to use photos of people, and stakeholder photos are a great way to use to do that as well. And then what do they want? What is something that's going to be valuable to them? So interesting facts about Facebook. It allows you to target education, behavior, age, gender, devices, and then 72% of online American adults use Facebook, and 82% of 18 to 29-year-olds use Facebook. So really great statistics. Again, I'll come back to that, but this is really like the biggest bang for your buck here. So you can set a goal. You really want people to share your materials on Facebook. You want to involve your community partners on Facebook. And then you also want to pay to advertise on Facebook. So your goal, if you want more engaged followers, do you want to have more attendees to your event? Do you want people to go to your website or an educational landing page? At the end of your campaign, excuse me, sorry, what do you want your users to do? So consider that when you're also engaging some of these strategies. I'm really sorry, I'm getting over a cold and I have a tickle in my throat. Okay, moving right along. Instagram keys to success. Sorry again. Artsy, aspirational photos. Tell your brand story, use your followers in your photos, and pay to advertise. Instagram, as we all know, is 100% photo-driven and video-driven. This can be a way for your tribe to aspire to new heights. So it's really like you're inspiring these people to do things. You're inspiring them, you're connecting with them on an inspirational level. So whether it's outdoors, kindness, physicality, food, this, you can visually tell your story and visually make connections with the people who are following your brand through Instagram. And then another awesome way, same thing with Facebook, photographing members of your tribe, engaging with your community is a huge way that you can gain more followers, gain more likes, and shares, because people will want to see themselves on your channel. So I'd implore all of you to incorporate that into your mix-up, into your mashup, because using those members of your audience who are already involved with you, who are already a member of your audience, who already clearly value what you're providing, they will be your biggest champions. So using that tribe that you already have to engage with you through social media is going to be an awesome way to gain new followers and influence more people. Okay, moving right along. So Twitter. Keys to success. Twitter is really a place of world influencers and thought leaders. And then also millennials. There are actually quite a few millennials who are on Twitter, and younger demographics who use Twitter, which is surprising. And then it's another place that you can pay to advertise. I haven't experimented with Twitter advertising as much as I would like to, but I do notice thought leaders are very accessible, key influencers are very accessible when you tweet at them. So if you're starting to look for people who might be a part of your audience, whether they're in Montana or outside of Montana, you can start to tweet at them and to see if they will carry part of your campaign. Lots of these key influencers have large, copious amounts of Twitter followers who are passionate about Twitter and who all do these little, tweets out. So, and we've seen actually in this political climate how crazy and influential Twitter has been, no matter what side of the spectrum you fall on, throughout our news cycle every day. So what I would say is you can use Twitter strategically to highlight influencers by looking at their followers, and then start to strategically engage with them. And you can start to engage them in some of your meaningful tweets that you think would be something that they would be a part of. You can also use key influencers that you already know who are already a part of your audience and request that they start to tweet some of your big campaigns. So that's a huge tactic, and you can make a press pack with suggested tweets that these people can use. So you can write them all out ahead of time, send them in an email and say, hey, we would love it if you could tweet a few of these this week and a few of these next week. We feel like your audience will engage with it more if it comes from you. So that's a really great way to use Twitter as well. Leaders, 83% of the world's leaders are on Twitter, which is kind of crazy. Influencers, again, you can directly reach out to key influencers, and then you can target the 29% of all internet users are using Twitter, and 32% of those are millennials, which is kind of crazy as well. Okay, moving right along to Snapchat. And I'm just curious, since I didn't have a chance to really read the comments, is anybody using Snapchat for business at this moment? for their organization? I'd be curious. If you are, please type it in the chat box and then I'll read it in a second. I'll keep on going, but let me know if you are using it and then how you're using it. I'd be curious. Okay, so Snapchat stories. You can tell a video story. You can offer incentives to engage the audience. The target is a lot younger, so 13 to 34-year-olds. So for example, if Spectrum Discovery Area was looking to engage with 13 to 18-year-olds for summer camps, this might be a really cool way to engage them. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can do that. And then it's kind of a wave of the future. It's really personal. And then there is paid advertising, which I have done some experimentation with. So using the video stories, it's free for businesses and you can tell a specialized video stories. So we just did an event recently and did all of our behind the scenes snaps. That's essentially what we use the channel for. But we've also offered incentives and have gotten substantial amount of university student followers when we offer coupons that are in partnership with businesses. And the goal there is to really engage them with meaningful content like that's useful for them, but then we can slide in some of our messages that we still feel will be meaningful to that audience. We can tell some of our behind the scenes stories about what it's like to be a student working in the Blackstone Launchpad, for example. So incentives, you can recruit followers to your channel by offering discounts, whatever shape or form those might come in, free admission to something or whatever it might be. And then you can really harness some of that Snapchat creativity. The target, again, it's a youthful crowd. So 60% are 13 to 34-year-old smartphone users, or yes, 60% of US internet users are Snapchat users, and they're 13 to 34-year-old people. And in a larger customer test, Snapchat says its ads are garnered to twice the visual attention of Facebook and 1.5 times more than Instagram. So Snap is achieving that it's going to be a more useful view for you through advertising. So if you do have a youthful crowd, this can be interesting. So the ads, paid ads, are working themselves out still. They're still figuring that out, but they're few different strategies. One, you can do like $40 to $60 advertisements that show up in somebody's stories feed for the Snap users out there who are doing it. And then also there are geo filters. So if you do have access to a graphic designer, you can create a geo filter. And those of you who have Snap on your phone probably have used them before. If not, I encourage you to download the app and kind of familiarize yourself with it because it's worth it. It's very interesting. So we have done a geo filter in the past before. The bang for the buck, I'm not so sure, but if you are doing something that's more campaign-based for brand awareness, like, for example, a broader AmeriCorps campaign that's like fighting poverty, could be really interesting to use with that demographic to just get, or if you were doing recruitment for AmeriCorps maybe, like if there was a week where you're focusing on like some poverty initiative, a geo filter could be really interesting for that demographic to get to know the AmeriCorps brand, for example. So that's another interesting thing. Nobody's commented whether or not they've used Snapchat, so I'm curious still. If you have, let me know if you have any other insider insights into it. So next, LinkedIn. Definitely not to be ignored. And in the last, I'd say, 2 years, LinkedIn has really upped their game as far as how to engage in social media and how we as both users and marketers can engage. So it's more of a professional audience. People are going to LinkedIn more to build their networks. And then 50% of all internet users are LinkedIn members. And it's about a 50-50 split on gender. 25% of those users are 18 to 29 years old and 61% are 30 to 64. So it's an interesting spread. And what I think some of what the audience really caters to are professional events, professional articles. And then so for example, if you were to have a press release that went out and then you shared that through your LinkedIn and then asked some of your key influencers on LinkedIn to also share that article, you'd find some significant traction in viewership. Whether or not that's going to convert into somebody going to your website, that's a bigger question. But within the platform, you might use it for brand recognition or for people to kind of understand what you're doing every day at the office, or what some of your big milestones are that you've completed that you want the public to know about. Also, I believe because of the professional audience, generally there's a higher income level associated with this. So if you were thinking of acquiring new stakeholders into your organization, this might be an excellent place to do that. Okay, finally, we'll move on to Pinterest, and I want to make sure we have at least 10 minutes to get through some of the paid advertising strategies. So Pinterest is very interesting. You can provide support for your organization. So you could use it almost as an online repository. In previous organizations I've worked with, they've used it, for example, like a health organization was actually storing all of their worksheets in there, as well as it was a health organization. So storing all of their worksheets that they wanted clients to fill out and paperwork that they wanted clients to fill out, believe it or not. Then in addition, so while they're going there for necessary paperwork to download, they would also see healthy recipes or 5-minute workouts that these clients could do. So it was an interesting place for the health organization's clients to stay. So Pinterest can act as kind of a repository for your customers. It can be a place where you can refer them to various boards that can support their lifestyles. And then in addition, it can also be a place of inspiration, similar to Instagram. So if you're looking to really inspire people, or people who aspire to do better in their life, this would be a really cool place to do some of that. It's got a largely female demographic, so 42% of online women are Pinterest users, and that statistic is probably from like 3 years ago, so I would wager it's gone up. And then experts do recommend that you pin daily so that your pins are seen in the Pinterest sphere. So if you have the capacity to do something like that, or you have a student intern who can spend like 2 minutes a day finding something cool to pin, repinning something, whatever it may be, creating meaningful content for your audience, that could be a cool way to use it as well. Okay, so takeaways. We're all fickle users of social media. Our use of social media is extremely tricky. Targeting is extremely important. If we are finicky users, then imagine, and we are the experts, then imagine how important it is to serve your target market with meaningful, appealing content, because everybody is getting so much content every single day. You want to make sure you're connecting with your audience in a way that delights them rather than annoys them. And hopefully all of these strategies have been interesting and useful to you. Now, just before I go ahead and start giving you an example of our targeted Facebook and Instagram ads, are there any questions on any of the social media we've covered thus far? Or any comments, examples that people have done that have been interesting and useful? If so, please comment away. So now I'm going to step in. For those of you who have not done a paid ad through Facebook and Instagram, this is really going to be for you. For those who have done a paid ad, you might learn something new. So if you absolutely must go, feel free to go. If not, stick around and see if my targeting is as up to snuff as what you've been doing in the past. Okay, let me pull this down just so I can get over here. So I'm going to start with an image, an audience, and a budget, okay? So right now at the Launchpad, we're coming into the end of the student school year. So during the summer, we use that time to really target our alumni, because the audiences that we serve, even though we have several different stakeholder audiences, but one of the clients that we serve are alumni. So I like to use the summer to really target them so they come in when we're less busy. So these are some images that I've curated that will resonate with some of our recent alumni. They're both 80s movies that hopefully some of you recognize and have seen, but Breakfast Club is one, and then Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So in the past, we've run, I think, a Goonies ad, the movie The Goonies, and it really did stupendously because that market, I think, was kind of delighted by seeing something from their past, like something that they connected to. So I'll set up an example ad for us using one of these, or maybe both of these images. So I'm going to click through, and then I'm going to use a budget of $50. I should mention, so on average, you can toy with your budgets, but when an audience is curated really specifically, like I'm going to show you, generally I get pretty good conversion rates at $50. For some of our larger events, I will do as much as like a $250 ad. But I also, for student events, will do something as small as $35. So you can experiment, and then you can always add to your budget later. So if you want to start small with $25 or $35, and Facebook allows you to, sometimes they have recommended minimums that you have to hit, then by all means experiment and try it out. Okay, so this is the back end of our ads manager. If you don't already have an ads manager or business page, you'll need to create a Facebook business page first. And I assume a lot of you already have those. If you don't, it's pretty simple to walk you through that. You set up your ads manager, and you do have to have a company credit card associated with your account. So then we're going to go to, so once you get into your ads manager, this is kind of the screen it'll take you to. We're going to go to create a campaign. And I'm going to call it, let's see here. Oh, we're going to choose an objective first. Okay. So I'm going to choose traffic. If you have the ability to do a conversion, I would recommend you do a conversion. The only difference between traffic and conversion, you do have to put some extra text into your header image or your header of your website. So you have to put some script into the header of your website, but it will better track how your ads are doing for conversions. So conversion meaning, has somebody left your ad, gone to your website, and done something that you want them to do? So have they registered with you? Have they signed up for that Spectrum camp? Have they become a member? Have they signed up for your newsletter? Little things like that. I have less flexibility at the University of Montana with our platform. I can't plug as much text into I can't plug as much script into our headers as I'd like, so I usually opt for traffic. If you're lazy, you can do traffic too, and you still get pretty darn good insights into where your traffic's coming from and going. Okay, so we're going to use traffic, and we're going to call this campaign UM Alumni 2018. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to call this ad set. I'm going to call this UM alum, and I'm going to say we're going to do 22 to, let's do 46 years of age. That's kind of like, you get to determine what you want for this to report as. So I'm telling this more for our information on the back end. So I'll know this is UM alum. The age that I'm targeting is going to be 22 to 46. So you'll see there's a little description of what the ad set name does. And you can have multiple ads in your ad set if you want. We'll start with one for now. So traffic, where are these people going to be going? I want to drive them to our website, probably to our registration page. And also, when you're thinking about where you're driving people from a Facebook ad or from an Instagram ad, the fewer steps they have to take to get there, the better. So if you have a landing page, for example, some of you may be using MailChimp. You can create a landing page within MailChimp now that automatically signs them up for a list inside MailChimp or whatever email marketing system you're using, which that kind of thing is clutch. So the less they have to click on to get to where you need them to go, the better. If you can send them directly to a sign up, that is ideal. So that's kind of what we'll be doing here right now. Okay, so we're going to create a new audience just so you can see. I do have other audiences that you can save. So you can see For our Pursue Your Passion program, I'm targeting mainly student-aged, traditional student-aged people. The gender is female, and then their interests might lie in sustainability, wellness, social entrepreneurship, business, health, politics or news, and then they're currently in school at the University of Montana. You can see I have several different audiences that I've saved, but we'll go ahead and create a new one. So we're going to call this UM. I wonder if I have, let me just see if I have a UM alum, because I could alter that. No, okay, so we'll do this, UM alum. Oh, if it'll let me create new. Okay, UM alum, great. And, okay, so we're going to start with the location. Okay, so we're going to do Missoula, Montana, because that is where I primarily serve. And then I do usually leave a 25 or 15-mile radius just so we get Lolo in the mix. So maybe I'll leave 25 for now. We have so many people who live nearby who might be a UM alum who travel into town. So that's the reason there. And feel free if you need to jump off. By the way, we're at noon. Feel free to jump off if you want to stay on. I think it's okay to stay on for a little bit. I think I can do this in 10 minutes or less. So if it's meaningful for you, stay on. Feel free to stay on. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the age. And I think I said 46. So we're going to do that right here. And we do traditionally, like I'm thinking the reason I know the age range, we see people in this age range consistently at the Launchpad, like often right after they graduate or a little ways after they graduate. And so these are kind of the age ranges that I see with alumni in the Launchpad fairly frequently. Now, if I was to do an even deeper dive, I could even profile the men that I see and the women that I see who have come through our doors who are alumni in the past. Often I don't have the time and flexibility to dive that deep, but if I did, that would be an interesting way of doing it too. So maybe I would want to target men with a specific ad, then I want to create a women's audience and target them with a different ad. And then you might actually get more conversions should you have the time to really invest in that. Languages, those will be the same languages. And then I'm going to go into the detailed targeting now. So when I think about who might be involved at the Launchpad for something like this, the UM alum, I want to absolutely put University of Montana. And generally, let's see here, University of Montana. They'll have marked that they have an interest in University of Montana if they're an alumni. They may not be attending. There's also a behavioral situation that you can add. I also like to think about profiling these people. So what are they interested in? Entrepreneurs can be really hard because they're interested in a lot of different things. So I might think about certain things that I see with these people. A lot of them are highly intelligent. So I like to think that they're into news and politics. So I always, really often will click on newspapers. I will click on politics. And then sometimes for this specific audience, I actually don't click on business because a lot of these people see themselves as independent folks. They don't see themselves as business owners yet. So they're people who are engaged in the business community. So I might do something like, let's see here. They might have indicated that they do like social movements. They may have indicated that they are interested in certain publications. So they might follow something like Fast Company or Entrepreneur Magazine. So even if I put entrepreneur, they might like something along those lines. Let's do social entrepreneurship. So we'll start here, but then you can also get into something that's as crazy as their behavior. So I might say, I really want to focus on people who use their smartphones. So let me see here. I should be able to go to behaviors, new smartphone and tablet users here. So they might be using a smartphone or a tablet to access their Facebook, which is really indicative of a lot of what we saw in our poll earlier, right? So you can start to consider, like, what are their behaviors beyond just what are their interests, which is pretty engaging as well. And behaviors are pretty fascinating too, because that's really what people are doing and how Facebook is tracking their behavior, which is kind of crazy. So it's more meaningful per se than somebody who's indicated that they like these interests will indicate that they've liked a page related to something along these lines. Okay. So we're going to leave that there just for the sake of time, but hopefully that's insightful to you. So there are different ways you can engage this. You can look at behaviors, you can look at demographics, and then you can look at interests, okay? So hopefully that's interesting for you. Okay, so now I haven't experimented with this. This is new. I'll have to get back to you on ads in the marketplace. In my experience, some of the new features that they roll out do take time. There are early adopters who might click on an ad in the marketplace, for example, but going through the news feed is usually a tried and true way that you will see more conversions. Okay, so devices, all devices recommended, mobile only, desktop only. I usually leave it to all devices because the people that I'm targeting are generally professionals who already have a job and who may be at their computer by day and are daydreaming of starting something by night. If you know your audience is strictly a mobile user, so for example, that demographic of high schoolers, they might be really into their phones. So that might be a place where you could select mobile only. And then, let's see here. I usually, like I said, okay, they have feeds selected. I never do right-hand column. Most of the time, people, in my experience, when I've surveyed in the past, ignore right-hand columns. I won't be using a video for this ad. It won't be a suggested video, and I'm not going to be using Marketplace. Now, this is where it's really interesting. When you set up your ad manager account, it will automatically ask you if you have an Instagram account to hook into. We do. So I will be showing the same ad that I'm advertising on Facebook into Instagram. Facebook owns Instagram, and I'm sure most of you know that by now. Should you not have known that, that's totally cool, but you can select right here that you want to be involved in Instagram. I choose not to be in the stories because it's one extra click that somebody has to find. So instead, I like to use the feed. I like it when people are surfing through their own channel on their phone and my ad pops up to them. But I also like to think that it's meaningful content that they're going to see and that it's not totally interrupting their day. Okay. I don't use Audience Network at this time, and I don't use Messenger. I have polled a few different organizations who have used Messenger, and so far they haven't got a ton of traction. I don't know if you've even noticed the Messenger ads on your own Facebook feed, but I definitely noticed them right away because I live in Facebook advertising. So you can experiment with it, and then if you're not getting conversions to your website, then ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. And then I'm not going to target specific mobile devices, but it's interesting because if you knew your audience was primarily an iOS device audience, you could target that way. I like to do both. Okay, so we're gonna do a lifetime budget of $50. If you want to do a daily budget, you can. The expiration sometimes catches up with you. So I generally do a lifetime budget because it's easier for me to control. I think some larger organizations with a lot more money to spend can easily do daily budgets because they have more money to play with. So I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna start this ad. Let's see here. I'm going to start it closer to the beginning of May. So maybe end of next, let's see here. Let's do, oh, it's only giving me certain dates that I can start it. Oh, it's because my ending date. So I'm going to end this ad at the end of May, but I'm going to start it on May 1st. What the heck? Okay. So this ad will run for the length of May. And generally I do 2-week ads, but because this is just I do a lot of event advertising as well. This is a more relaxed ad. I want it to convert, but I also want people to see it for a longer period of time because they can come in at any time throughout the summer and the year, really. And then I am going to have this be for link clicks. You can also optimize these differently. So I always like link clicks because link clicks actually focus on conversion. If you want people to see a landing page that you've developed, you can do that. You do have to put that pixel or that code into your page. So I generally opt not for that because of my restriction. And then you can also do impressions. So that's just served to people so they see it. But I like link clicks because this is optimized for people who really want to participate in my program. So there you go. And then I like to run my ads on a schedule. So this is where I really get into the psyche of the person. So most of the time, I know that my audience is a professional audience, right? So I said they're going to be at work between 9 and 5, but I also know some of these people might have kids. So they might be up as early as 6 in the morning checking their phone. Generally the evening, they're busy until they're not busy, again, at like 9 p.m. So I generally select here, and I'm going to go all the way down up until Friday. Friday it changes. So then I'm going to do this for a couple hours here. And then I'm also going to do this on Friday. So I will show it until about 3 p.m. on Friday. And then most people have plans on Friday night and are not as into their social media. The same could be argued with Saturday. But then Sunday night, a lot of people are back engaged on their social media. So, and I might avoid dinner time. So I might put them in right around there. So that's kind of how I schedule for social media. And you can think about your audience. You might have like a really like a nighttime audience, or if they're students, they like not college students, but high school students or even elementary students, they might not have their phones during the day because of school. So you might like text, they might be more active at lunchtime and in the evening or something like that. It really varies depending on your audience. Okay, so we're going to continue. Oop. And okay, you can see it's coming from Launchpad. It's coming from our Instagram account, and I'm going to do a single image. You can do a carousel if you have interesting things. And the cool thing, if you have several interesting images, and the cool thing about a carousel too is that it has additional room. You can give additional pieces of information on each picture. So when we talk about meaningful content, you can consider all the value that you're providing for this audience, and then you can say, here's a specific value deliverable that we're going to be giving to you that's associated with this picture. Here's another different value that we're going to be giving to you that's associated with this picture. And here's 1/3 picture and value deliverable that we'll be giving to you. So you can do kind of almost like 4 ads in one. So I do like carousel ads. But for this, I'm just going to do 1 ad. So then I'm going to upload an image, and one of those images that I showed you, hopefully I can find it. Facebook, and if I can, I'll download it. I think it's under Ferris. Let's see here. We'll do Ferris because it's easy to find. Pull it up. And then a lot of people have questions about copyright. So this could err on the side of a copyright consideration. I generally, I've never gotten in trouble with copyright. However, as an educational institution, I have a lot more leeway in what we provide. There's a lot of gray area, but in what we provide, we have a lot of leeway because most of everything that we're doing is being used for an educational copyright purpose, which does fall under a certain type of copyright usage. If you're really paranoid, then use your own content that you've created. I generally am cautious when I'm using things like this, but because I'm using it in as part of an educational institution, I have some flexibility. And generally in the past, if I ever have had trouble, somebody's contacted me and we've pulled the picture down. I can think of that maybe one time in the past like 15 years. So anyway, so not a huge deal. Well, it is a huge deal if you're like really violating it, but this is all in good faith, so we should be okay. So the text I might use, will come up here. I'll just show you where it shows up so you can see. It shows up at the top of the ad. I generally give, like, try not to do more than 3 lines, and it's usually on the value that they're given. Then I would send people directly, so I'm going to pull this up, umc.edu/launchpad. I'm not going to send them to our homepage, but I'm actually going to send them to our book a meeting page, okay? So that's interesting because they can register right away, and you can see right here that that's where they would register. So I'm going to send them to a specific place. And if I could, I can't, but if I could, if I had like some way to send them specifically to this registration page, I would send them directly there rather than even to the top of this page. So you want them to see where they're going as quickly as possible, okay? And then the headline might be something like, serving alumni all year long. Bring your ideas in. Or, yeah, bring your idea in. Something like that. And I'd spend a little more time being more thoughtful in this. Then instead of learn more, I want to get specific. So I want to see request time, see menu, sign up. So I want somebody, what's the closest to book a meeting? Oh, book now. That's even better. So I'm going to choose this call to action, book now, or I could also do sign up, whichever one's best. And then you can also have a display link. So you can put in umc.edu/launchpad if you wanted that to be what is displayed, even though it's taking them somewhere else to book a meeting. And then here you can have a nice long description. So you can say like, Blackstone Launchpad serves all alumni, students, staff, and faculty of University of Montana. Bring your idea in for a free consultation, or book a meeting to discuss your idea in a free consultation today. So then they know exactly what they're getting. That preview, oh, this is the mobile news feed. So if we go to the desktop news feed, I believe that's where this description will be. So that's something to consider too. The news feeds are going to show up differently, okay? And then we can see what it shows up as in the Instagram feed. Okay, and that's my fake text. So you can optimize all of these differently, however you want it to be. Okay, so then I would click confirm, and then it would go to town, and the ad would be live. Okay, so that kind of concludes everything that I wanted to present to you guys. So quickly, are there questions for any of you who are still on the call? And I'm sorry I went over, but hopefully it was meaningful to you. All right.
Thanks a lot, Morgan.
Yeah, no problem. And feel free to email me if you have private questions. I'm happy to help as I can.
Awesome. Appreciate it, everybody. Yeah. And we will talk to you on Tuesday.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, see ya.